Alright, y'all, we finna get started. 1, 2, 3, and...
We're talking enemies, talking random. We're talking enemies, talking random. Hey, you, they call me one and all, and to the barbershop where the conversation's right. They're talking on it all, and you can even call in just to set the places right. The ladies and the dudes can pull up, come on through, and it's all good. We're so talking enemies, talking random. We're talking randomly, talking random. We're talking randomly, talking random. We're talking randomly, talking random.
Is this the barbershop? This is the barbershop. Well, I mean, we can't talk straight in the barbershop. Then where can we talk straight? We can't talk straight nowhere else. You know, this ain't nothing but healthy conversation.
Good evening. How y'all doing? This is Talking Random-ish, barbershop style conversation, where no conversation is taboo. I am your host, Master Barber himself. I am your boy, the Classic City finest, Enrique King. That is I. They left me in the barbershop by myself. And if y'all have ever watched any episodes like way back, y'all know there was a problem. I's married now. I's married now, so it would not be a problem. But y'all do hear the voices of some lovely young ladies. And normally when they leave me alone, I find myself surrounded by some lovely young ladies. But I's married now to one of the most loveliest young ladies. So it ain't gonna be no problems tonight. First of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Rick Dunn for allowing us to use this space to bring you these conversations that we have weekly. And we need your help because due to the budget cuts and things that's going on with the present administration, administrations past, and probably those going forward, we need y'all help to keep this thing going. Because if you know Mr. Rick Dunn and the work that he's done in this community, you know that it is important. A lot of young people have come through these doors, have sat into some of the same seats that we are sitting in. And first of all, I want to say thank you, Mr. Rick Dunn. And people, please, please, please find it in your heart to keep giving to places like this, community organizations like this, so you can continue to help and service the young people. If you want to give, ACC High School Completion Initiative by donating through PayPal. When you do this, please include educationmatters@gmail.com. You can go in there, give a donation, but you can also give through your Kroger Plus card. All you have to do is log on and search ACC High School Completion Initiative. And every time you swipe your card and make a purchase through Kroger's, you can give back to this organization that is allowing us to have these conversations that is needed in our community. I also, tonight's conversation is one of the reasons why I and my guys do this. It's about educating the community. And tonight I want to shout out one organization that's doing something, because this is Autism Awareness Month. And the organization is Let's Step Out for Autism, Bring Awareness, Embracing, and Love. This event will take place April 26th from 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. in Augusta, Georgia. They're expected to have over 100 attendees and their autistic children at this event. They will participate in step aerobics, HIIT workouts, line dancing, and meetings and greeting the community. This is another organization, another event to help bring awareness to autism. Tonight, our guest in the building, and we're going to get to them, you know how we do. We're going to get to our guests and why they're here. They are here to educate us about autism, to dispel some negatives and hopefully give out some information to where if you think you need services, or you are noticing something going on in your kids and you're not sure what it is, and we're trying to, like we try to do in everything, debunk the stigmatisms around some of the things that are happening in our community, to put an awareness on some of the things that's going on in our communities. I don't know if y'all see, well, if you're watching the YouTube, y'all see this t-shirt that I have on. I thought that this t-shirt, which is a t-shirt of Big Bang Theory, and if you heard anything, if y'all heard my episode last week, one of my top 5 fictional characters of all time is Sheldon, who is on Big Bang Theory. I fell in love with this show, but I thought I fell in love with the show because all the people on the show was just weirdos. And I fell in love with the show because I'm a weirdo. I don't know if anybody know, if you know me or have spent any time around me, eventually you realize I'm a weirdo. Well, I didn't know I was a weirdo until I got much older in life. And initially I thought I was just watching this show about a bunch of weirdos who was okay with being weirdos. But it was based around this one character who is the main weirdo of them all, Sheldon. But as I got to go through my everyday walks of life, I began to realize that Sheldon was on the spectrum. Now, let me tell you the first time I heard about this spectrum thing. There's another show that I watch on Netflix called Atypical. Sam, and he starts off basically explaining that he's on the spectrum. This was the first time I ever heard the word spectrum. But the two characters are both autistic. Sheldon, I guess, is what they would call having Asperger's. Am I saying this correctly? And because of his, but both of them are highly intelligent, though. That's so. don't get me to, because I don't. I just enjoy and just watching them navigate their life through their eyes, through their worlds, and it helped me. Watching these guys actually has helped me be able to deal with some of the people in my life. So this was my first introduction to, well, this was the first that I thought, because I heard someone say, if you remember the movie Rain Man, from when we were kids, Raymond, we now know was autistic, but we just Wapner at 7, and if he can't get the judge, watch Judge Wapner, there's a problem. So today we have 4 educators, and not only educators as in educators of school and knowledge, but they're here to educate us about the world of being autistic, or the world of raising kids that are autistic, or, well, enough of me talking. Who are y'all, and why are y'all in my barbershop? And we gonna start from the right with family. She really ain't got to say, but just cause we do what we do. Miss Bolton, who are you and why are you in my barbershop?
I'm back.
Yes, you are.
I'm Lakisha Bolton. I am an educator by profession. I've taught from 6th through 12th grade, and I'm also special ed certified, so I've been a special ed case manager, and now I am a district behavior specialist, and I most importantly am a mom to 2 amazing young men who are on the spectrum.
Okay, and keep going.
I'm Latasha Smith from Oglethorpe County. I'm actually a sibling of a child with a special needs. So my older brother was born with a very rare disability. He had intense seizure disorders, cerebral palsy. He was wheelchair bound. So I played the role of being a sibling growing up, around my parents, raising a child with severe disabilities, as well as now I am a teacher, so I'm certified K through 12. I am a special education teacher as well, and I am an autism specialist as well as a dyslexia specialist. So I teach full time, but I have built a business for the past 7 years, started with 1 student, and now I serve over 35 students in serving all of Northeast. So I serve children from Oglethorpe County, Elberton, Greene. Majority of my sweet babies are in the Clark County area. I teach in Gwinnett County Schools, so I do have students that travel in from DeKalb, Gwinnett. So they come all around, and it's so amazing that I started with 1 baby, and most of my babies now are from simply word of mouth because when they come to me, they do not leave. So I have grown so much, and I specialize in autism as well as reading and dyslexia. And so those are majority of the students that I serve. And that's pretty much all.
Okay.
I am Nedra Hayes. I am a real estate broker, and I am an author. I am also a mom of a precious little boy that was diagnosed with autism at the age of 3, but last year was undiagnosed from autism, and we can get into that too. Yep. Yes, he is my real life superhero is what I call him. But yep, that's it about me.
Okay.
I'm Dr. Antonio Garcia. My background is in a host of things. I've taught pretty much every grade level. I've taught here, Midwest, as well as Costa Rica, because I speak French and Spanish. So, did juvenile justice, and then last year and part of this year taught special education in Clark, and then resigned in October. So now I'm transitioning to other avenues.
Okay. I guess I'm gonna jump on in with what is autism? Anybody go?
Well, I'll start, and you guys can chime in. But autism is it's a spectrum of different behaviors. So you have low functioning autism, and you do have high functioning autism. On the lower spectrum of autism, you will experience these are some of the things that you may see with students on the lower end of the spectrum. These students need more adaptive support, which I mean by that is, they need more support with feeding, more support with toileting, lots of prompts, and they're not really as independent, so you have to teach those independent skills to those students. Whereas when also functionally cognitive, their ability, their rapid rate of ability to learn is much slower than other students that may be on the higher end of autism. The students that are more on the higher end of autism, these students are very independent. You may see more social deficits in their inability to communicate with students that are their same peers, age peers. They may seem to be or may be called weird or awkward. They may not pick up on social cues. They also may have more challenges with self-coping, solving problems, things like that. So whereas when you're lower functioning, you're needing more life skill support, whereas higher functioning, you're requiring more social, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate when engaging with people.
Sheldon.
Yeah, yes, I guess you can say that, Sheldon.
Yeah,
I need to watch that actually. I never.
Big Bang is, I'm telling you, is absolutely one of, because everything you're saying with the high functioning, he completely, one of the running jokes is him trying to figure out if somebody's being sarcastic or not.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And you'll say, did I get it? And so that is one of the things that he's trying to figure. But he is intelligent. I think he went to college at 12.
Oh,
yeah. Very intelligent.
A couple doctorines. He's a physics guy. So theoretical physics is his thing, but it's just watching and that's his okay.
And a lot of times it's so funny that you said that, because one of the things that we work on with more of our higher functioning students is idioms. So like if I say it's raining cats and dogs, and my students are like, it's not cats and dogs don't fall out from the sky, but a typical student will look at that and take a different approach.
Yes.
So those are the type of skills that we really work on with students that are more higher functioning. And also with autism, you may see some repetitive behaviors, meaning like flapping, things that are self-soothing to them that they may engage in. And then I'm trying to think what else. Self-talk. Sometimes they, movies stick in their head, and they're talking about that movie, and y'all be sitting there. One of my students, he'll just start laughing. I'm like, "What's funny, Jesse?" He was like, "Oh, no, it's this movie. I can't get out of my head."
Sam Darnold, atypical. When he comes on, he has a rubber band, and he flicks it, and that's his thing. He starts to flick it, and that's when he's trying to, I guess it's self-soothing. Yes, it's self-soothing to him. And he also, there's a couple times in the show where a word.
Echolalia.
It gets caught.
Echolalia. Yep. My son does that.
Yes.
Yeah, it's echolalia.
That's when the
When
word.
they repeat, it's like a loop. Like my son will say a statement over and over and over again.
Yes.
That's echolalia.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's the kind of part of that repetitive behavior. But it's all sensory. It's all induced by sensory needs. And we all have sensory needs. Even I have sensory needs. But my sensory needs may not look like, a student with autism or someone with autism sensory needs.
And there'll be too, like, just to chime in, because Temple Grandin will make, like, and also some others, but there's autistic traits, which it drives me nuts right now, especially on social media, because everybody thinks I'm a little quirky, so I'm autistic. And it's like, no, you have no idea. So, like, you have the other side, which is the dark side of meltdowns, shutdowns, anger, rumination, some of the, like, stemming behaviors people don't understand. So that can be difficult. It can also be embarrassing. If you're an adult like me who has, like, I have dice in my pocket that I twirl, or I have, like, magnetic balls that help. So the trait thing is interesting because a lot of people are like, oh, I got 3 of those. And it's like, that doesn't really qualify you guys.
Exactly.
No, and I'm laughing because as me and my wife was doing the research on this, we started to look at each other. Hey, we checking boxes, and it's so. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yes.
And it's something that, like, it's hard because I would be classed as a pattern seeker. So like when there's certain things given to me that are like conceptual avionics or looking at like studying Starship with SpaceX, I knew there was a problem with the front stabilizer, but I didn't know how to explain that. So that's also, you kind of have, I was writing down like with atypical, Rain Man, and also Sheldon was never actually diagnosed with autism.
Yes. Because one of his favorite things is they say you crazy. He said, no, my mama had me tested.
But actually she didn't, because remember they left the doctor's office because it didn't. The thing with him, and it would have made sense later on, is that regardless if he had a name for the condition, it wouldn't change the condition itself.
Yes.
And that's kind of like a George Carlin thing you see a lot of people doing now. So like there is that spectrum, and then there's the hard side that people don't get, which is like the rage side, the getting frustrated, breaking down and crying for no reason. And it's like a switch. It's on and off really quick. So if you can figure out the circuit board, it's a lot different than what ends up getting usually diagnosed as like a bipolar disorder. Oh, you're up and down. But the thing is, with autism, you can see a quick off and on. If you know and you start learning later, how to control it more and what that switch looks like in that circuitry. Versus bipolar, it could be weeks on end, you don't have a reason necessarily for feeling sad, or if you're hypomanic or whatever.
Doing my research, they grouped autism and ADHD.
They're starting to do that a lot.
You see that a lot, and one of the as I'm watching, it says autism versus ADHD. First of all, Dr. Garcia, are you on the spectrum?
Yes. So I would be considered on the high functioning end. But there are things that like I struggle with that people can't understand. So, for people like me where it's like, well, how are you this smart, but you don't know how to do like a small task? And it's like, because it's that little thing, it's not gonna change. Exposure therapy, a lot of times therapies are approached wrong with autistic kids because you end up having an actual like worse effect on them. So something that's traumatizing, triggering, and there could be all types of things that you don't understand because their mind isn't on the same wavelength.
Absolutely.
So they might see something that looks completely like ordinary, I don't care. but in their mind, there's an entire film that plays out within that 1 second, and they are tragic at the end, and so they just freak out over it.
How long have you been diagnosed?
They started looking at it, I think, around 2021. It had been asked over the years by people who weren't connected, you know, have you ever been asked about autism? And I was like, but then it kept getting worse and worse and worse to the point where you get suicidal in nature because services are, after 18, it gets a lot harder. So you're trying to set them up. So, you know, therapy didn't work, psychotropics weren't working, so you start putting all the pieces together, and you have to start working backwards, and you go, okay, well, what were you doing as a kid? Well, I would click my throat, which is vocal stemming, which is kind of what she was talking about. So, like, I also will bang or hit my chest like this. So it's hard because it's little things that you can see and spot it, but you know, the worst thing that you'll hear people say is like, well, you don't look autistic. And it's like, well, I'm
What
going
does
to
it
look.
look like? Yeah, what does
Exactly.
it look like?
It's not Down syndrome that has a genetic anomaly to where you can kind of go, okay. But yeah, I mean, it's all shapes and forms, and you know, because you come across a lot of kids, but it really is kind of getting overdiagnosed, but not in the sense of pinning down like, oh, they're ADHD. Well, their mind's pinging at a million, you know. Or like everybody wants to create a term, but nobody's feeling better. I'm autistic. I'm like, I don't care, because at this like time, this isn't helping anybody. So you see a lot of those conversations, especially around Asperger's, Aspies, that getting a negative connotation because it has been linked to Hans Asperger, who colluded with the Nazis, and so. But then when that happened, they removed it out of the DSM and ICD. It left an entire group that had identified around that with kind of like, what are we supposed to do now? You just rip this away because of something historical that we had no idea about.
And I totally agree with what you're saying. That's one thing that we are seeing a lot of, even as a teacher. When we're getting students coming into the classroom, I'm looking like, this is not autism. Lots and lots of kids are really getting not diagnosed correctly. And it's starting as well at a young age because it's dealing with emotions.
Yep.
And when it's a lot of tantruming, emotions, and also speech.
Yep.
So a lot of speech concerns are now, oh, it's autism.
Yep.
No. So it's a lot of that's happening. A lot of labels are being placed on younger children as well. Because I found out, as well as a lot of doctors, and psychologists, they see so many kids coming in, and they're just throwing the label out, whereas it's not autism. As they continue to the interventions that they're putting in, you're seeing less and less and less. Which, if it's true autism, you have to shape and replace behavior, and that comes in through intense interventions and therapies. Versus you seeing the behavior just totally, now it's gone. You don't see that behavior anymore. But this child has an autism diagnosis. And see, in Gwinnett County schools, we have levels to autism. And a lot of times you're seeing kids in these ASD classrooms because they were showing these signs through speech earlier on, or through tantruming behaviors or things like that, and it's automatic. Oh, they're showing signs of autism, and they say signs of autism, and so that's when it kind of pushes a child closer to that label. But once those interventions are put in place, you see less and less of those signs of autism. But a true child with autism, you will continue to shape and replace behavior. So that is the difference with a true diagnosis of autism versus one that is not very accurate.
Well, of course, doing the research, was going through the history. I was that in our community, the Black and brown communities, we were not getting properly diagnosed at an earlier age. So has that now changed? Or we just is it like you hear a lot of people throw mental health out there just as a buzzword. So is diagnosing these kids so fast? Is it now just like a buzzword, something to do? Hurry up, get them out your face. Let's put something on it and get them on. And I guess my question to that is that helping? Because because of a lot of the videos I'm watching, these because I'm watching a girl, I can't remember her name, but her mother had been trying to get her diagnosed, but they couldn't get her diagnosed until she was 17, and now she is ineligible to get services, and she's no longer, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but now she has to wait till she's 21 to get the proper diagnosis so that she can get services that she needs. So, go ahead, Mom.
So, from my personal experience, my son was diagnosed at the age of 3. He's 10 now, and we had him tested like 3 times back to back at the market center. And so the market center told me that basically they was going to diagnose him with autism, being on the spectrum, so that he could get the services. And the psychologist at the time at the market center told me then that I had to be very aggressive with early intervention for him in order for this to overturn. So at the time I didn't know what it means. You diagnosing him, he has autism, but I did what I was supposed to do. I was really, really aggressive with him when he started going to school, when they had extended school years. I made sure he went to that. I made sure I talked to him, made sure that he would talk back to me, because when he got diagnosed, he couldn't speak. He wasn't talking, and that was one of the main reasons why they wanted to diagnose him. He started to speak better, temper tantrums. He had tantrums. They went away gradually, like Tasha was saying. So for me, when you diagnose them early like that, you put them in a situation, and Tasha and I have had conversations about this, where if he's in an adaptive setting with kids that can't talk to him, it delays his social skills. It delays him academically, and that's my struggle with him right now. Just trying to teach him how to be more social and what that looks like. And Lord, the academic side, Tasha has been his tutor for years. She was the reason why he learned how to read. My son was, in 3rd grade, 4th grade?
I think he came to me in third
grade and could not read. One bit. Schools, nobody. But
he didn't even know his letters down.
No.
Individual letters
She
down.
taught him how to read. So it was like, this is a problem for me, and I have been battling with the school system since 3rd grade. But I'm saying all this to say, I decided to go outside of the school and get him diagnosed again, go through another testing to see where he was, because he had accomplished so much and grown so much over the years. And when I got him retested, Dr. Hughes said that he was going to undiagnose him because he couldn't see any signs or any traits that said that he was still on the spectrum. So it's good to be progressive and try to figure out what's going on with your children, because early intervention helps them so much. But then it's like when they are misdiagnosed or whatever the case may be, and they're in a situation like my son where, okay, you're autistic, so you're going to be in adaptive setting, but adaptive settings is not helping you. It's really delaying you, and now we pretty much having to play catch up.
I'm going to come to you.
Okay.
Dr. Garcia, do you think that if you had been diagnosed when you were younger, would that have helped you?
I mean, part of it is, let's say I get the diagnosis when I'm young, I'm going to need a parent that would actually understand the diagnosis. So that's one thing you encounter. Because I know a parent who didn't want her kid diagnosed or anything, because there's a stigma to being in SPED.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
I think it could have helped me in some ways to better understand why I didn't see things or do things like on the playground like other kids did.
Yeah.
Or I would ask questions that seemed kind of inappropriate, or I was more drawn to like higher order thinking or like what adult conversations were, not G.I. Joes and things like that. But, you know, it's not easy. I mean, I would say maybe to some degree it would have helped maybe later on, but not, I can't really see like knowing my parents, because you're going to remember when I was in school, this was also the rise of ADHD and Ritalin, and then it starts to just spike basically after 1983. So there were a lot of things to where now you almost are basically like a diagnostic pimp where you're like, oh, your kid's got this or they've got this. What does insurance need? We'll check off on this. And you're like, does anybody have a real degree of what we're doing here? Or looking at the kid to see what is making them so unique to have the traits actually aggregate into something that says this is not anything else. This is autism in a particular level.
Miss Bolton,
Yes.
you, our favorite nephew.
Which one? Because I got two favorite nephews. Don't leave my other one out.
The Morehouse man.
My Morehouse man of Morehouse.
The man, excuse me,
he
the
hasn't
man,
graduated yet.
excuse me, the man of Morehouse.
He's a man of Morehouse.
What was it like for you raising both of your boys?
Okay.
At what age did they get diagnosed, and what made you, I guess, the first son?
So, both of my kids, when they got to around first grade, I didn't see what the school saw, and partly it was because my kids really didn't go to school with other kids. You know, they went to preschool, but it was a smaller setting. So, like the differences in my kids versus other children, I didn't really see it because they were immersed with me, my parents, and us. So when they got to school, the differences started to come out. So initially, now mind you, schools do not diagnose. They can make recommendations,
Yes.
but they do not diagnose. So the first recommendation, they were basically saying that he had a developmental delay. That's what no one spoke the word autism or anything. So my boys are 18 months apart. So here comes the next one coming along, and so same thing, developmental delay. So me as mom, I'm like, now hold on, both of them can have developmental delay. So we took my youngest child to a therapist, and they formally diagnosed him with Asperger's, which that wasn't a dirty word at the time. So his official diagnosis was Asperger's when he was in first grade, and then we took it to the school, and the school psychologist was like, oh, well, maybe that's what the older one has. So technically, my oldest son has not been diagnosed, but he received an IEP for autism based off of his brother's diagnosis.
Okay.
And he had traits that were mild. He still has those traits that, they're still there. But, me being an educator and, the things that I knew as an educator, we started to work on those social skills and things that they have at home. So I really didn't rely on the school for the social skills things because it just wasn't happening. The school system that they were in, they're not very good at autism. I'll just be honest. Autism is not their jam when it comes to those social skills things. And so a lot of the work for them, we knew it wasn't academic. My kids have always been very, very inquisitive and very bright and strong vocabularies, but the social part was what was there. Friendships were hard. They didn't really fit in, with them being black boys anyway, but then you're a black boy that rather play with dinosaurs and can tell you every dinosaur that ever been in the universe versus, everybody else playing sports and those things. So they never really had a social circle, but, we worked on those social skills together to the point that, they were always honor students with autism. I had a plan as a parent is that we're going to wean off these services and we're going to get to high school and we're going to be consult. And that's what we were in high school, consult only. They took advantage of dual enrollment. They never struggled academically. It was mostly social because they fixate on certain subjects and areas, and then they excel. So back to my man of Morehouse, who is a journalism major and an honor student in college, and his fixation is journalism.
Okay.
And that is what he fixates on, and he masters whatever he fixates on. The social awkwardness is his superpower because he finds a way to engage with you without wearing autism on his sleeve, but he just uses that in a way that is positive, to where he has viral videos with Don Lemon and being interviewed, with people, and he goes out there and seeks interviews using, the fixation as a strength. So I guess, for lack of a better term, there is light at the end of the tunnel, Mom.
Thank you.
With kids with autism, and that's why I always share my kids' stories on social media, because they did have an IEP. I know there's a stigma behind having an IEP,
Absolutely.
and it's not the autism, it's the IEP, because they lump everything together and oh, your kid is slow, or oh, your kid. But I'm like, no, that is support.
Mm-hmm.
My son keeps his IEP from high school on his nightstand in his college apartment to this day.
Yes.
And he goes down into that student services office at Morehouse College
Yes.
and say, I need my services.
That's right.
Yes. That's right.
That's another thing.
Yes.
I need my extra time. I need
That's
my
right.
quiet space. And that is how he has honors.
That's right.
Sam Gardner on Atypical, that was one of the big things after he graduated high school.
Mm-hmm.
Was he going to go check in to get his services? And he would not,
Yes.
because he didn't want to seem different.
Mm-hmm.
But if you know anything about him, everything about him is different.
Yes.
And so he did not want to go check himself, because now his mother can't do it.
Right.
So now he had to do it, and it became a thing. And so that was so. Your son that's getting ready to graduate.
Yes.
So everything. How is
He is a little bit, they both are very high functioning, but he is the one, when I say echolalia, he does it, but he has learned to cope with the echolalia, where he doesn't do it in social settings.
please define that term for us.
Okay, so echolalia is when you just repeat a word or a phrase over and over and over again.
Mhm.
It's an echo.
Yes.
And it's just loop, it's on a loop.
Mm-hmm.
When he's in public, you would never know it. But when he's in his comfortable place with people, you'll just hear him in the room, and he's just saying the same phrase over and over and over again. It's just a little quirk that he has. But
Can I ask you something?
yes.
So how did you shape that behavior? Did you work on shaping that behavior? Because that's an instructional strategy
It is.
that you teach those functional skills. Like you said, that he doesn't do it in.
He doesn't do it in school.
In
Like
school
his
or-
friends would never know he does it. And it was just something, to be honest with you, this was something he did on his own.
Oh, okay.
And I think where ninth grade was where things clicked with him, because again, the school system that he is in does not do autism well. So they had him in self-contained in all of middle school.
Mhm.
So he did not go out with a lot of kids, and they had everybody lumped in there together.
Mhm.
But I was like, but he doesn't need to. Like, he needs to be at least in a collaborative setting.
Yes.
It was not the least restrictive setting for him, but we made it work.
Mhm.
And so,
Well, did he ever have a goal?
Oh, yeah.
About echolalia? No,
on
up to
paper,
address this?
no.
No, okay. Because that's something
because they didn't see it.
Okay, got it.
I saw it at home, and so it's like, this is your in-house behavior. You're
Yeah.
free. You can be your free self.
So,
But
yeah.
at school, this may be a quirk, or you may get, looked at, or he would ask like inappropriate questions. I remember his government teacher in ninth grade was like, well, he said, he blurted out something, but the rest of the kids know him, so they
Okay.
knew to not really respond, but it was inappropriate. And so we would have a conversation, and my son is one of those, like, you ain't got to tell him twice. He's
Okay.
like, okay,
Yeah, okay.
that doesn't work. And so he got more out of speech
Okay.
with social skills
Mhm.
than in the general setting.
Gotcha.
And the other things with like making eye contact, because neither one of my kids had eye contact when they were in like first grade. So me and my ex-husband worked on that. It's like, hey, when you greet
I do
someone
that.
and you look at them,
I
and
do
and you hold the gaze. And those are just things that we worked on when they were younger. To the point that my oldest child is gonna walk up to you and he's gonna look you, and not both of my kids would do it, but he's more intentional about it, to the point that he called me and he's like, Mom, this is during the election, and he's like, I saw Don Lemon on campus, and he said, I ran across the campus and I went up to him and I spoke to him, and he recorded him, and he was like, I did all these things. But you could see he was working through those social skills things that we worked on when he was younger, to get this interview, to get this moment, and he was recorded and his video went viral, and he was just like
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. So you put in that intervention, so that's good.
That intervention is needed
Right.
young, at a young age.
So being a mother of your two boys, you and your husband at the time, what was this like for y'all being their parents, and did y'all start to think, where did they get it from? Where did this come from?
Well, fun fact.
Okay.
Their father had an IEP as well.
Okay.
So, and I really think it was autism, but it wasn't diagnosed. It was like LD. That's what they, back in the late 80s, in the early 2000s, it was LD. And so, that's what he was diagnosed with. That's what he received services for. And this is a man that went on to law school and passed the bar the first time.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it wasn't like, okay, this label, oh my God, we failed as a parent. It was like, okay, let's get to work.
Let's figure it out.
Well, see, that's amazing because, back to my shows and the little research, Sam's father, who was Michael Rappaport, there's a period in his life where he left. And he had worked with a guy for years and years and years. The guy came over and they was like, well, and that was the first time the guy had known about Sam being autistic. And it became a problem because the way I'm seeing it, a lot of men have problems with accepting, and I'm guessing this is because of their sons.
Yeah.
You know, these are your boys, and they're not gonna be in sports. They're not gonna be the son that you hope they would be, and even the guy I watched, and he stopped going to one of the sports bars that he was going to, because as they sitting there and you and the fellas talking about your sons, and his son hadn't learned how to tie his shoe yet.
Right.
So it becomes an
Listen, my youngest kid is a theater kid, so he took his autism to the stage, and where he starred in Clue last year as Colonel Mustard, and had so many speaking roles. And this is a kid that didn't make eye contact. He's going to college to be an actor and work in film. So, again, that stigma of autism, in addition to the expectation of boys, don't limit your kids. You know, I mean, sports is cool, but everybody's not going to be an athlete.
Yes.
But they can excel in other things, and that's great. Like my oldest tried, so he wanted to be an athlete. He sucked at everything he tried, but he wanted to be a part of something.
Yes.
And so the beautiful thing about the kids that he did grow up with, when they got to know him and they knew his gift, he gets so much praise, probably more than the kid that's running the ball down the field, for what he does do well, which is journalism. And he tries those things and he puts himself out there, and he gets the same praise as the kid that's, excelling in sports. So I get it, and that may be a guy thing, and I'm the mom, I'm the nurturer, so I don't know what it's like to have raise a son as a man, and, all your hopes and dreams.
I want to piggyback off of that. Like, even with my son, he's not into sports, but he's into gaming right now, and he, like, you can put a new game in front of him and he gonna beat the game like in a couple of hours, and most people cannot do that.
No.
And he's at a point where
video games
he's at a point where he wants to build his own video game, and he has walked me through the process at age 10.
Right.
Wow.
And I'm like, dude, like, let's get in the lab, let's build this game. And he's like, when I'm ready, I'm gonna let you know.
gonna do
But
it.
right now, this is what I want to do. This is how I'm gonna do it. So I'm saying all this to say, he may not be a professional football player, but he could get in a situation. Well, he's gonna get in a situation where he's gonna build his own video game and make millions off of that.
Right.
So he doesn't have to be in sports.
Right.
Like, I agree with you. Like, they excel in other areas that's best for them.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
And coding, like breaking codes, he'll write codes down,
Yeah.
and I'm like, what is this? Well, this is the code that I need to get in the game to break the game. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, stuff that's going over
Yeah.
my head,
Yes.
but he's excelling in it.
Take them to Comic Con, honey. You'll be in a
Yes.
different world. My kids love Comic Con. Oh.
And this is coming from a non-geek. Oh my God. Oh my God. Yes. Yes. Hey, it's absolutely one of the best things. I'm glad I ever.
My kids love Comic Con. They cosplay and they do all the things.
Yes. All right. We're gonna get ready to take a break. Get up and get a swig of water, run to the bathroom, and do that, and we're gonna come back and I think it's gonna be fun when I come back. So y'all stick around. Hold up, we will be right back.